Ja, hörni, jag hoppas verkligen att ni suger in all den information som kommer oss till handa. Jag tycker att det är otroligt starkt innehåll på många sätt. Hur många av er här är här för första gången? Upp med handen. Ja, men det är ändå rätt många med tanke på 13 år. Det känns både kul och stimulerande. Jag ska också säga att vi kommer ha en kundenkät efter som kommer skickas ut av IABA-gänget. Så att vi gärna ser att ni svarar på och tar emot feedback för att slipa på detta ytterligare. Men nu över till engelska. För att this day is obviously a day about programmatic at large. And it's about challenges, opportunities, winners, losers, and all the key challenges that are still out there. Quality management, what about the measurability? Are we still seeking for the true there? Technology costs, and what about trust? I have a very prominent panel with me today, so please give a big hand to Tom Jennen, which is Senior Advisor to Asserted Yield. We have Sara Wendle, Senior Business Development Director in Nordics at Verve. We have Bart Bogard, Regional Lead, ViStar Media. And we have Oskar Rogstedt, Head of Programmatic Bond and Use. Welcome on stage. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You feel comfortable?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good, yeah. I'm happy to hear. In Kenneth's opening speech, he praised, obviously, everyone being around here, creating and shaping the future of programmatic. With that said, there is kind of an irony suggesting that trust is actually just like the industry itself is losing in trust, but the market itself is growing. Do you see the complexity in this? Oskar, what do you have to say about that? Why is it enough trust in this market?
I mean, we always need to. It's a fast-growing market, and it's a lot of things that are happening all the time, and the development and how we challenge ourselves need to be pushed even more and even further, and that needs us to find new solutions and new ways to think and I think that's a challenge when you're always chasing new type of technology and new type of revenue, and those two combined, you need to have the education and make the organization follow.
So the pace of change is too fast, you think, or?
No, I think it needs to be that fast, because we need to challenge ourselves to push new boundaries and find new ways to, from our end, to attract new audience, to find a way to challenge the way of getting new readers and so on. And we need to make sure the things that Paul was talking about earlier still exist, and we still can develop our journalism in the business as well.
Yeah. Tom, if I may say so, we could consider you as a veteran. I mean, you were part of Admiral already back in the days, early 2000s, around there.
You're saying I'm old?
I'm saying that you are experienced.
Yeah.
Silver Fox experienced. With that said, when you entered the market, obviously you could see the potential in it. You could see the whole world, expanding in this opportunity. But you also see, but we're facing problems. Are there still pain points that you saw back then that still exist today? And in that case,
I tell you, I live for the pain points. I live for those problems to solve. In fact, that's the only innovation that's happening today in our space, for everybody in this room, is happening with independent companies who have to be creative and have to be competitive in order to survive. You don't see a single bit of innovation coming from the big platforms. And I would also include some of the bigger independent platforms. They're not making anything. They're pushing other people away from their lunches so they can eat it, instead of making a new lunch for everybody to eat. And as a result of that, we need this independent open web. We need publishers. We need creative tech companies who are in the middle, who need to solve some of those problems and win. Unfortunately, we are held back very often by the big platforms and by regulation. Regulation tries to help us in many ways, but it also doesn't care. So we have to be aware of that. Nobody's going to solve our problems for us. So we need to invest and work out how we can go ahead with the most control that we can.
Interesting. So from the regulator side, obviously, there are some key aspects of this that also Jacob addressed about us understanding there are other truths than ours, right? Like, if we were to create a unregulated market, is that something that you would see actually benefiting, or how do you perceive the regulations at large?
I don't know, if I go into a bar and there's a bunch of really big dudes, that's an unregulated market, right? They can beat the shit out of me, right? In order for there to be some creativity, I've got to feel free and a bit independent to be able to build something that maybe I'm not going to get beat up immediately. And I think that's the problem now, is we don't have enough regulation of the big platforms who have all, and I used to work at Google, and I work with these guys all the time. Full disclosure, I spend half my time with Accenture. These are big companies. And yet, there's no regulation on them, none at all. So they have just been able to grow and build their businesses and eat whatever they want. And no offense, I mean, we would all probably do the same thing in their shoes, but we do need more regulation in order to create sustainable business models for journalism. We need to have sustainable, independent ad tech so that we can continue to innovate and solve the big problems that we all have.
Yeah, we touched upon the antitrust lawsuit. Obviously, Bonnier is a close ally with Google. If there would be an outcome where they would need to break up Google, which the intention would be to make you benefit from it as a publisher, obviously. Do you see that happen? Would it be good for you?
I mean, we always need to look into which partners we are collaborating with and how we could make the most efficient partnerships, and we will follow what's happening going forward.
But that wasn't an answer.
No, no, but yeah.
Would you win or would you lose?
Let the future tell. Hopefully we will win. When we have a good market and a good situation.
Okay, good. So, Bart and Sarah, you are representing like the expansion of the traditional view of the programmatic market, obviously. Verve is often talking about the emerging market. Explain and elaborate a little bit on that.
As Carl also explained, there are so many untapped channels with audiences that aren't being explored by advertisers today. So the spend is not following the consumer behavior or patterns. And with that said, we would like a more test and learn approach, because in some channels we get stuck in industry standards and so forth, like looking at Digital Out of Home that we actually didn't discuss today. There's a great opportunity to reach new audiences. It will grow in new areas, not only the traditional outdoor companies, also other environments and other companies tapping in. Also with mobile, I mean, with all the app inventory, you use your mobile all the time. You look at sports events, you travel, you book your ticket, and so forth. So trying to explore those environments, putting, of course, context and privacy and regulations in forefront. But it's not that easy. There are also things that needs to be kind of discussed within the industry as to measurements.
Bart, we will obviously hear a little bit more about you guys later. But I mean, to be honest, when I first heard that there were discussions about digital out of home and buying that up programmatically, I was quite reluctant that that would actually take place. But now we're certainly there. What are the key milestones that needs to be addressed in the digital out-of-home space today?
So I would say I think what we're doing well in out-of-home, and the reason why we're growing so fast is the fact, I think Tom kind of pointed out as well, is what we're trying to do as Vista Media, because obviously we're a DSP and an SSP for out-of-home specifically, but I think what we're doing quite well is out-of-home used to be this closed-up environment where specialists knew who to buy, the local specialists know who to buy. However, if you're outside of that environment, it's almost impossible to buy the inventory. And I think the fact that what we do right is that we open up the market for a new type of buyer. So digital agencies all of a sudden can find the out-of-home channel as well and use their experience with programmatic to make incremental value within the out-of-home market. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we see such a growth in out-of-home globally, in the programmatic out-of-home specifically. Yeah.
Interesting. Oscar, if you would, really be sincere here now and say, what would be like the major point that would open up like very big growth for Bonnier at this point in a programmatic space? Meaning, what is holding it back? Not suggesting that you're not doing well, you're doing fantastic. But if you would say, let's say, play around with the idea, you would be able to double it. What key factor would enable that?
I mean, what we're looking into is how we can engage new readers, basically, and how do we attract the younger audience in case of, I mean, the mobile is driving the engagement going forward, and context is being more important for agency and buyers. And if we can find a spot to attract more readers and make the environment more welcome for younger audience, then we can actually increase our revenue a lot.
Yeah. I mean, from an international perspective, if you look at like journalistic-based platforms, New York Times, for instance, nearly half of their inventory today is gaming. Is that like something that you guys look into in order to expand?
No, I mean the most important thing for us is the journalism and that type of editorial material that are going to drive our revenue going forward. So that's what we are into, not gaming.
He's not fun. They're not fun.
No, even New York Times have realized this, right?
Not fun either, but they're trying.
Yeah, at least they are. From your perspective, in the next coming years, you have a couple of stakeholders throughout the echo chain. Who will prosper the most, given the trends of today's programmatic landscape?
The trends aren't great. The trends are it's getting harder and harder to start up new programmatic, new publishers, for example, right? You see Substack, you see some platforms that kind of make it easier as individuals to create new publishing businesses, but it's harder and harder to do that without kind of looking in areas like subscriptions, and you need to have all of the pieces. E-commerce, commerce media, as Dylan was saying earlier, you need to have all the pillars, and it's hard to start off doing all that, right? You need to find a voice and get that voice out there and find that audience, and it's expensive. We make a big deal about made-for-arbitrage publishers, and we should, because some of them have some pretty bad behaviors. At the same time, they are spending 80% of their revenues in marketing, trying to bring in new audiences. If they start creating better quality content, maybe those audiences would stay and those costs would come down. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that Google spends 25% of their revenues on bringing people to their website, right? So if we think about that from the perspective of a new publisher, you're going to have to spend a lot more than that. You're going to try and get that number down, but there's a hard number there. You've got to be spending a huge amount to promote your brand and get it out there. So I think the challenges are such that programmatic alone isn't going to get us there. In fact, but we do have to continue to drive costs lower on content creation. We need to drive costs lower on audience generation. We need to drive costs lower on demand generation. So all those pieces coming together means we can't avoid AI. right? We can't avoid kind of some of the consolidation that we're going to be seeing, and we have seen already. Next year is going to be a big year for consolidation. So we got to be prepared for that, not worry when it happens. We just still need to find those engines to create more and to build more kind of new businesses in our space.
In the programmatic space, we talked about the trust, and we talked about and part of that is a big discussion with regards to transparency, with technology costs, and are the customers getting what they are paying for, etc. What's your take as a technology platform on that, the transparency question?
From our side, we aim for transparency and a fully transparent on the media fee and the tech cost, etc. So we favor those things a lot, both from the supply side, and nothing is really hidden in that environment from our side. No.
What's your take, Oscar?
On transparency?
Transparency.
From our end, we, as I said before, we would love to have a more transparent discussion in the market, and I think we are in a position now where we are talking. We need to be talking about. We had an earlier discussion with IS and so on within the IAB, and talking about how we as a publisher, the tech company, and the advertiser needs to be more involved in the transaction. I think we are going further to be that and to understand all the whole funnel. So I think we are on the way doing that.
Right. Bart, measurement seems to be a key factor in new growing areas, where we talked about CTV earlier. I'm not sure if you got it all. It was in Swedish, right? I can't remember.
It was in Swedish. I
didn't. So, but anyway, they had an argument or productive discussion about measurements in that panel. What's the status on the measurement abilities in the digital out-of-home?
Are you talking measurement in terms of audience measurement of the impressions, or?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going the good way. I think IAB is playing a big role in that as well. Where in the end, it's very important because the change in out of home is now that we do programmatic. The measurement is in impressions instead of share of voice, which is a different way of calculating things. I think it's very important for all the media owners, because that's the big benefit of out-of-home, is that there's not so many media owners within one country, is that they are together to discuss what the one point of measurement will be. And I think this is something that's now going on, together with Sarah. They're now talking about, okay, how can we make sure that everyone's using that same measurement? I think also, if you also talk about transparency in out-of-home, it's super transparent because everyone knows each other. So also in our reporting, everyone can see exactly what the impressions are and can therefore call out on it as well if it's inaccurate, right? So it's growing. It's getting better and better.
Okay, good. We are running out of time, but I just want to leave with one final question, and I want this panel to leave with a positive note. So, what is the largest opportunity for programmatic to grow in the near future? Quick and witty answers, please.
Transparent discussion.
Good.
For out-of-home, it's expansion of the digital screens.
Good. Thank you.
I agree with Bart. Expansion of inventory outside in the open internet, untapped inventory.
Good.
Retail media.
Retail media. With those words, thank you so much to our prominent panel. And I hand over to Maya.